Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
I came to Carthus Prime to disappear. Not because I was hiding from the law or some tragic past, nothing so dramatic. I just needed silence. Somewhere far from the roar of interstellar trade lanes and corporate mandates. Terraforming tech work was lonely, sure, but that was the appeal. Fix the old atmospheric generators. Maintain pressure domes. Log hourly reports no one reads. Sleep. Repeat. Until the storm came. It started as a low groan in the atmosphere, a warning hum that set off two of my seismic nodes. I watched the clouds roll into the window of my cabin, black and bloated, like ink dropped in water. My scanner glitched. The beacon uplinks began to cut in and out. That was rare. Then, one by one, the exterior drones failed. Static. No signal. I was prepping to go manual when the first knock came, sharp, metallic. Not at the door. At the roof. I froze. Wind, I thought. Debris. Then came the second knock, heavier, deliberate. I reached for the emergency rifle under the bench. Before I could power it up, the control panel hissed. A system override flashed across the hollow screen. Access code accepted. Emergency protocol engaged. My cabin door slid open with a hydraulic wheeze. And then, the storm roaring behind 5 tall figures, silhouetted against lightning. They stepped into my space like they owned it, armor-clad, helmets shaped like animal skulls, glowing eyes beneath, mismatched gear, some high-tech, some almost tribal. One of them, the tallest, stepped forward and removed her helmet. She was beautiful in a dangerous, biomechanical kind of way. Her skin was marked with glowing lines, like bioluminescent tattoos. Her expression was unreadable. "We need shelter," she said. Her voice was deep, modulated, commanding. I nodded, slowly raising my hands to show I wasn't a threat. "Storm's gonna tear everything to hell. You're lucky to be here." She stepped past me without another word. The others followed, silent, watchful. They scanned my equipment, checked every vent and panel, like they were mapping a battlefield. All of them were women. All carried weapons. "Is this a military op?" I asked, trying to sound more curious than nervous. "No," the leader replied, eyes still sweeping the room. "We're independent." The smallest one, with a half-burned visor, let out a dry laugh. That's one way to put it. Another, the one with the twin energy daggers slung on her back, stared at me with unsettling intensity. She had piercing eyes, feline in shape, and something about her body language told me she moved faster than anything that size should. I felt like a bug under a microscope. "I'm Sarah," the leader finally said. "You live here alone?" "Yes." "You armed?" "Lightly." "Good. Don't." That was the end of the conversation. They made themselves at home like predators staking out a den. One sat on the bench near the generator console, another by the weapons locker, which she opened with casual ease and inspected like she might replace her own arsenal with mine. Sarah moved to the window. She tapped her wrist pad. A translucent map floated up, showing topography I didn't recognize. Not standard survey maps. Something else. Coded overlays, anomalies, heat signatures. That's when I knew they weren't just passing through. And the storm wasn't what brought them here. As the wind howled louder and the storm finally consumed the last of my exterior sensors, I heard one of them whisper something, just loud enough to cut through the static hum of the shelter. It was the woman with the feline eyes. She was watching me again. I saw him first. "Me?" Sarah turned sharply, eyes narrowing. The others grew quiet. I pretended I didn't hear it, but my gut twisted, because in that moment, I realized these women weren't just soldiers. They were something much older, much wilder. They were huntresses, and I was something they had come here to claim. I spent most of the night pretending not to notice I was under surveillance. The huntresses took over the cabin without ever asking. Their movements were smooth, rehearsed, like they'd done this sort of infiltration 100 times. I kept quiet, kept busy, boiled water, checked the status of the storm, ate cold rations, anything to avoid making eye contact. They spoke mostly in their own language, sharp, rhythmic, half-clicks and sibilants that reminded me of a predatory insect's hiss. But every so often, they'd switch back to standard when I got too close, or when they wanted to unsettle me, like the one called Vecca, the one who whispered. I saw him first. She watched me constantly, not flirtatiously, more like a scientist studying a specimen or a wolf waiting for something to stumble into its jaws. She didn't wear a helmet like the others. Her eyes were a strange shade, like molten copper, glowing faintly even in low light. She smiled too much, and none of those smiles were warm. After midnight, when the storm outside had climbed to full ferocity, I made the mistake of asking Sarah the question that had been burning in my mind. You're not just refugees from the storm, are you? She glanced at me from where she was crouched, disassembling a rifle and cleaning it with quiet precision. A long pause followed. Then, no, that was it. I waited, but she didn't elaborate, just continued polishing the weapon's barrel. I exhaled slowly. So were you? We're tracking something, she said finally. Something old, something dangerous. What kind of something? She didn't answer, but the others fell still, listening. Even Vecca. That's when I noticed what they were doing, projecting some kind of heat map from a holonode, layering it over the cabin floor. A topographical sweep of the surrounding area. But what caught my eye wasn't the map. It was a signal spike. It was directly underneath my cabin. Hold on, I said, stepping closer. This is my property. Vecca chuckled. Not anymore. You think I'm just going to let you dig into... We won't have to dig, Sarah interrupted. She rose to her full height. It's already waking up. My blood ran cold. What is... She took a step closer. You've felt it, haven't you? In your sleep. Pressure in your skull. The hum in the floorboards. Flickers in the corner of your eye that vanish when you turn. I swallowed. I just hadn't told anyone. I chalked it up to isolation, paranoia, maybe some side effect of the planetary atmosphere. What is it? I whispered. A relic, Sarah said. Older than this colony. Older than the terraformers. Buried beneath the permafrost. We picked up its call 2 cycles ago. Vecca stood now too, circling me. And guess what? She said, voice low and soft. It's been dormant for centuries. Thousands of years. Until 3 weeks ago. Sarah looked at me. The day you arrived. I stepped back. That's a coincidence. No such thing, said Vecca. Not with them. Them. The word hung in the air like an echo. Sarah turned and keyed a command into her wrist pad. A shimmering projection flickered to life between us. A dark spire, jagged and alien, half buried in glacial ice, pulsing faintly like it had a heartbeat. At the base was a ring of glyphs. I didn't recognize the language, but as soon as I looked at them, my head ached. It felt like something inside me moved. I stumbled back. Vecca grinned. You feel it, she whispered. I knew it. I saw it in you. What do you mean, in me? Sarah exhaled through her nose, not impatient, but tired. Like this wasn't how she wanted this to go. You're attuned, she said. Genetically, maybe ancestrally. That relic. It woke because it recognized you, or something inside you. Maybe a code, maybe a signal. But it knows you. I stared at them. I'm just a technician. I install water filters and repair old regulators. I'm not part of some alien prophecy. Doesn't matter, Vecca said. It already chose. The others watched silently, like a decision had already been made. Not by them, not by me, by the thing below. Vecca stepped forward, slowly, her tone shifting into something strange, almost reverent. You're the marked one, she said. You belong to the cycle, and to whoever claims you first. She looked at Sarah. Sarah looked back. There was something sharp in that glance. Tension, a disagreement not yet voiced. No one's claiming anyone, Sarah said flatly. Then why did you bring me? Vecca's voice was rising. Why let me track the signal for 12 systems? Why follow it here if not to? Enough! Sarah's voice cracked like thunder. The others straightened. She turned to me. We wait until the storm clears. Then we go to the site. You'll come with us. Voluntarily, if possible. And if I say no? Her eyes narrowed. You won't. The storm raged for 3 more days. Outside, lightning peeled across the sky in ragged arcs, illuminating the frozen hills like a strobe. Inside, the air grew thick with tension. I tried to stick to routine, checked equipment, adjusted the heat flow, tried and failed to get a distress signal out, but it all fell hollow because I wasn't the center of my own story anymore. I was the target of someone else's. The Huntresses spoke little to me after Sarah's declaration, but they argued among themselves, quietly and tensely, always in their own language. I couldn't make out the words, but I caught tones, anger, suspicion, hunger, and always Vecca watched me. I'd find her just standing in the doorway while I worked, sitting across from me in silence while I ate. At one point I woke from a short sleep to see her crouched at the foot of my bunk, head tilted. "Do you know what it's like," she asked, not blinking, "to chase a signal across half the fringe worlds, and then finally feel it moving inside someone else's skull?" I didn't answer. She grinned and walked away like she hadn't said anything strange at all. That night, I dreamed of the ice breaking open, a heartbeat under my feet, a voice in a language I didn't know, saying welcome back. When I told Sarah the next morning, her face paled. The truth about the relic. "You weren't supposed to get this deep," she said quietly. "It's happening faster than we thought." I sat on the edge of the generator bench, arms folded, trying not to shake. I want the truth. What is it? What's buried out there? Sarah didn't answer at first. She paced for a long moment. The others were asleep or pretending to be, though I could feel Vecca's eyes on me from the shadows. Finally, Sarah spoke. A long time ago, before the outer colonies were ever drawn on maps, there was a race that seeded technology across the galaxy. No one knows what they were, what they looked like. They left behind devices, locked in the crust of planets, dormant, silent. She paused. Until they're called. I frowned. By who? Sarah looked at me. By you. She tapped control on her wrist pad. A 3-dimensional scan unfolded between us. An underground chamber deep beneath the glacier shelf, encased in layered stone and artificial alloys. At the center, a structure, half pyramid, half organic, pulsing with soft light, the same one from the earlier projection. "The relic beneath us is not just a machine," she said. "It's a signal emitter. But it only activates when it detects a compatible cognitive pattern, a psychic fingerprint. And you think I match that? You don't just match it," she said. "You triggered it." I rubbed my face. "So what now? You take me down there and hope it, what? Accepts me?" Sarah didn't speak. That was answer enough. Then I made a mistake. I turned to Vecca and asked, "And what happens if it doesn't?" She smiled. "Then it changes you. Lines in the snow." The storm finally began to thin on the 4th day. The clouds peeled back, revealing bruised skies and fractured sunlight. My external sensors flickered back online, giving a patchy view of the snow-choked valley. That's when I saw it. A heat bloom beneath the ice, faint but growing, and it pulsed in sync with my heartbeat. We geared up in silence. Sarah handed me an insulated suit with integrated neuroshielding. "Just in case," she said. I noticed something strange then, a hesitation in her eyes. Something like guilt. "You're not telling me everything," I said. Sarah paused. "I've seen this before. On another planet, years ago. Another relic. Another man. What happened to him?" "He opened the door," she said, "and the thing inside stepped through him." Vecca snorted. "He was weak. This one won't break." Sarah turned on her. "You don't know that." "Yes," Vecca said. "I do." She looked at me, and this time her voice was nearly tender. "He's mine." The journey. We set out just before dusk, cutting across a frozen ridge, in a tight formation. My snow crawl wouldn't survive this terrain, so we moved on foot. Crampons crunching into ice, wind whistling between jagged rocks. Vecca took the lead, blade on her back, a fluid predator in motion. Sarah stayed beside me, quiet but alert. The others flanked us from a distance, covering every angle. After 2 hours, we reached it. The glacier shelf dipped into a depression where the ice had melted into mist, steam rising in slow, ghostly tendrils. And at the center, the top of the relic, a black spire breaking through the surface like a tooth-piercing flesh. It hummed. I felt it in my molars, in my chest. As I stepped closer, the air shimmered around me, not from heat, but from resonance, like the space itself was holding its breath. Vecca was smiling. Sarah whispered, "It knows you're here." The relic began to glow, glyphs along its edge lighting up one by one. And in my mind, a voice I'd never heard before whispered, "Access recognized. Anchor confirmed. Cycle restored." The Huntresses all dropped to one knee, all except Sarah, who remained standing. "Back away," she told Vecca. Vecca snarled. "He's opening it. You said we would." "He's not ready. He was chosen." They both had their weapons drawn in a blink. Vecca's twin daggers crackling with energy, Sarah's plasma edge glowing like a sunbeam. I stood between them, the relic behind me pulsing faster and faster. And inside my mind, something vast and ancient turned its gaze toward me and smiled. The relic throbbed like a wound in the earth. Its black spire loomed behind me, humming in pulses that synchronized with my own heartbeat. The glyphs on its surface had lit in sequence, a language without sound, but full of command. The ground beneath my boots vibrated faintly, like something massive was turning over beneath the ice. And in front of me, 2 apex predators were ready to tear each other apart. Sarah's blade was steady, her stance tight and defensive, honed from years of disciplined violence. Vecca's twin daggers crackled with blue-white plasma, her breath steaming as she snarled through bare teeth. "You're compromising the link," Sarah warned. "You want to lock him away," Vecca spat. "But he's already chosen. I saw it, felt it. He wants to awaken it." They were both right and wrong, because part of me did want to know. Part of me needed to know what was waiting inside that relic. And whatever it was, it already knew me. Anchor confirmed. Initiate integration. The words were not spoken aloud. They boomed through my skull like a memory not my own. I fell to one knee, clutching my head as the glyphs blazed brighter. From the base of the spire, black tendrils of light rippled out across the ice and veins, carving glowing circuits through the permafrost. The ground shook, deep and long. Sarah broke stance and rushed to my side, her sword clattering into the snow. "Pull back!" she shouted at the others. "It's opening, he's the key." Vecca didn't move. She stared at me like someone witnessing the sunrise after a 1,000-year night. Slowly, she sheathed her daggers and approached. Reverently, "You're becoming," she whispered. "You're crossing over." I couldn't speak. My chest burned with pressure, like a dam cracking inside me. My memories twisted and reformed. I saw stars I had never visited, structures not built by human hands. A war long dead, but not forgotten. A voice echoed in the core of my being. Not alien, not human. Reclamation begins. The spire shuddered. The ice around it cracked, then shattered entirely. Massive slabs exploded outward as the full shape of the relic emerged. Not just a tower, but a submerged vessel. A living one, dark, sleek, shaped like a predator, part obsidian metal, part biomechanical skin. Tendrils slithered beneath its surface, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. No, not with. It had taken over. I was no longer separate. Vecca stepped forward. Her voice was almost soft. "You belong to it now." "No," Sarah said, rising to stand between us. "He doesn't. That's not the mission." "What mission?" I gasped, finally able to speak. Sarah hesitated. Then, to stop it from waking, truth revealed. "Then why bring me here?" I asked. "Why not leave it buried?" Sarah's eyes flicked to the relic, which now pulsed like a beating heart behind me. She didn't answer immediately, but I saw the regret settle behind her gaze like ash. "We needed to know if it could still bond with a human mind," she said. If the old compatibility markers survived this long, you were the control. My blood went cold, so I was the test subject. Vecca smiled. He passed. Sarah raised her blade again. Slowly. That's not a good thing. The relic reacted to her threat. A high-pitched tone shrieked through the clearing. Vecca moved fast, intercepting Sarah mid-lunge, their blades locking, energy sparking around them. The other huntresses stepped back, uncertain, and I stepped forward. The relic parted from me, a seam in the spire sliding open like an eye blinking. Darkness inside, beckoning. A voice spoke again, clearer this time. Ancient, unfathomably old. Cycle restored. Interface accepted. Armor awakening. A burst of light wrapped around my hands, my chest, my spine. I screamed, not from pain, but sheer overload. My body was changing, not transforming, not mutating, but being reconstructed, layer by layer. A living suit wove itself onto me, dark, elegant, humming with power. I could feel every snowflake in the air. I could hear the vibrations of Sarah's heart. I could see the structure of atoms in the spire's hull. I was no longer a technician. I was something else. The thing beneath. Then came the quake, not from the relic, from below. A deep, primal thud that cracked the ridge wide open. We all froze. The spire's lights flickered. The warmth of my veins cooled suddenly, and the voice in my mind whispered, "You are not alone." Something else had awakened with the relic. Something older. Something that had been locked away. Intentionally. A shape moved beneath the cracked ice, impossibly massive, more felt than seen. The relic had been the key, yes, but it wasn't a prison. It was a beacon. The decision. "We have to run," Sarah said, voice tight with fear she barely ever showed. We were wrong. We weren't supposed to activate it. We were supposed to warn the others. Vecca, still glowing with the thrill of my transformation, shook her head. No, this is the future. He's part of it now. This world belongs to him, and whatever he brings. They both turned to me, one ready to protect me, one ready to worship me. And under the ice, something ancient stirred, answering my presence. I looked at them, and for a moment, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Not human, not machine, not prey. Chosen,